Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast, sponsored by the IBCA. We are a global podcast that shares the passion for the coaching profession. You will hear the stories of coaches from all around the world. We are covering the profession in game, outside of the game, and anything in between. As always, thank you for listening. We look forward to sharing the coaches' stories with you.
We are back with another episode of the After the Timeout podcast. We have a great guest today, Matt Majkrzak, new head men's basketball coach at Northern Illinois University. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule here with what you got going on to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This will be fun.
So we start kind of every podcast with the opening tip, just to let our listeners get to know about you, your journey. You can talk about your obviously your photo program, what the transition to your new program, but just a little bit about you, because I feel like when we hear it, everybody kind of has those connections of the journey to get where they got.
Yeah. I think obviously I've had a unique path where it feels like one of those. It's like one of those memes where I'm excited for the game. This sucks. This sucks. This sucks. This sucks. Awesome, we won, or the other way. And that's kind of been my path. I was a manager, wanted to get into coaching, almost went to law school, decided, no, I want to coach. Went to Shadron, Nebraska. We went 3-23 my first year as a GA. And, it just was, I wanted to, kept wanting to go to places where I got to actually coach and be involved. And like, for instance, there, they had a GA, but no assistant. So I was the top assistant at 23. I thought I was going to fix everything. We win 3 games. I mean, and that was kind of how it went. And then I went to Bemidji as an assistant coach at D2. We didn't have a winning record in my 4 seasons there. So, everything's just going great according to plan. And then I took a JUCO job and won a lot in my 1 year as a head JUCO coach. And I was good. It was in Milwaukee, which is kind of where I'm from. I was set on being there for as long as, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world to be a head coach and be back home in Wisconsin. And then the Northern Michigan job opened up, which was a D2 program that was really struggling. And I went there and was there for, 7 years. Again, it's like it seems like life works this way a little bit. As soon as you're happy and content and you really like something, that's when you have these opportunities. And we had just redone our gym, we'd done our offices, our locker room. We'd gone to 4 straight NCAA tournaments. We'd won the conference 4 straight years, and everything felt good, happy. It was home. And then the Northern Illinois opportunity came up, and it was too good a job to pass up. And another one that just kind of fit who I am and all of those kinds of things. So that's kind of the quick background.
I think we're gonna get along with coach. I like the little sarcasm when they weren't very good and things are going according to plan. I think this is gonna be a good one. So let's talk about your time as a student assistant. We don't get too many guests on that started as student assistants. So you started as a student assistant at University of Green Bay. Kind of first, maybe what made you decide to do that? And then what were some things you experienced in that experience that kind of led you to be like, hey, I do want to do this coaching thing?
Yeah. So I think like a lot of us, I was 18 and didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I played everything in high school. I went to a really small town and football, baseball, golf, basketball. And I just love basketball the most. I don't really even know why. Like football games were fun, but no one likes football practice. And, I was getting recruited probably the most for football just because I was a big body that and they're like, "You can come in and you gotta lift for 2 years and then you might play." I'm like, "Wait, all the parts about football I hate without the fun parts? That sounds terrible." And, but I knew basketball-wise, I would've had to go to a really small private D3. I wanted to get into coaching, and actually, I haven't told this story very often. So I was done with my senior year, and I put together kind of an all-star team. It was before the AAU days were really cranked up. So this was like seniors that were done with high school, and then you could have younger guys. And I kinda put, like, our conference all-star team together, and I was the worst player on it, and we ended up playing in this thing called the Dean's Food Classic in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and in the first round, it was seeded. We were, like, a deep low seed, and we matched up with a team that had a kid that ended up going to Marquette, a guard that went to Providence, a bunch of high major guys, and we beat them. And I remember, like, in that game, they were gonna sub me in because we were gonna just kinda sub each other, 50-50. I'm like, "No, we're good. Like, let's win." And so that I remember when that weekend was done, I sent an email to Green Bay and said to all the coaches, and it was an hour from my house, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm a pretty good coach evidently because I just assembled this team. Would you guys be interested in having me as a manager?" And for whatever reason, Brian Wardle, who at the time was the assistant coach, called me, which I mean, you don't always call manager emails back right away, but he called me the next morning and said, "Yeah, come on down. We'd love to have you. Why don't you meet everyone?" And from there, I was like, okay, this is cool. And I think my part of it, and it's still how I feel, is I don't want to not be part of a team. Like I don't want to not have that. You get the best and the worst moments of your life when you're part of something like that. Our end of our season this year was I'm crying hysteric tears, and then you have like the most joy you've ever experienced. And it's not because of you winning or losing, it's because you're doing with people you care about and love. And I just never wanted that to go away. And so by the time I got to Green Bay, I got to see that every day, and I'm like, "Wait, I can have the same feeling without being a player? I don't wanna not have this." And I think that was what lent me to wanting to coach.
So, you obviously just talked about your path, right? And things change along the way. And you have your values as a coach when you start, and then you obviously learn and you grow along the way. So, what things for you, as far as your values and what you think is important, stayed the same, and maybe some things that changed as you moved up and as you're learning, and you're like, 'cause we've all had it, like, oh, I was a young kid, I thought this was the right thing to do, and maybe not.
Yeah.
So kind of those things of where you kinda stayed the same and those core things you kept, and then what you learned along the way and changed and thought, "Well, that probably wasn't the right thing."
Yeah, I think I probably started out a lot more, I'm gonna be super tough and macho, and I'm when I'm a coach, I'm gonna be the man. And I think I probably relaxed over the years. I think our players would say that, like who our players now wouldn't, because of course they think I'm still that way, like mean and yell at them all the time. But our guys that came in when I first started, they're always like, "Yeah, he's definitely chilled a lot." As time's gone on. So I think that's one thing that's changed is just I don't know, and maybe it's a little bit the kids have changed. I don't know if yelling and screaming and stomping every day is the right strategy anymore. But I think the core stuff honestly hasn't changed a ton. Like you surround yourself with good people and people you want to be around. I coached some AAU when I was at Green Bay. And I remember just being like, I just have more fun with the kids and the parents that I enjoy being around. And when I became a head coach, I'm like, we're gonna be bad at the JUCO level. I'm like, I'm just gonna recruit kids I want to be around. Then we got to Northern Michigan and we won. Then I got to Northern Michigan. I'm like, okay, we're gonna be bad. Let's recruit people we want to be around. And that flipped it to being good. And now we're here. And by now, I think it's the best way to be good too. But if I was being honest, it started out more as a if we're gonna be bad, how do we survive a couple down years? And we're in the process of doing that right now, starting over basically on a roster from scratch. And that's been the central question every time is who do we want to be around every day? Because you spend so much time together. And I would say, I don't know if that's changed, but it's definitely became like more of a priority than it used to be. And it's really became like the central theme of everything we do from a culture standpoint. Like everyone has those signs in the locker room. Ours are like, be a good person, go to class, pass the ball. I think that's it. I think those are the only 3 we have, because everything else is kinda made up. Like, we like guys that go to class, because then we don't have to chase them to class. That's nice. If you're a good person, we'll get along just fine, and then pass the ball. I've seen this firsthand. You can have great kids, and if they're selfish on the court, it ruins a team as much as you can also I've seen this, and maybe not our teams. I've seen teams that have some bad kids and some bad culture, but if those guys share the ball on the floor, you can pull it off. So it seems like that's the one basketball thing that we don't really, give a whole lot of gray to is guys that wanna share it and move it.
I like the, go to class, because anybody that was a JUCO coach knows the torture of making sure your kids were in class.
That's
And
probably why. It's probably the JUCO. What do they say? Like, you can go away from JUCO, but JUCO never goes away from
yeah,
you. I think I have some of that.
"Coach, I'm in class." "No, you're not, I'm standing right here." "What are you talking about?"
For sure.
Well, and I think this perfectly leads into so I'm gonna give all the credit in the world. Sean Connor, who connected us, also might be the author of the next 2 questions, so we're gonna give him credit. So when they sound really good, you can say that Todd and I created them, but it really wasn't. But I do wanna tweak one of his questions, based on something you said. And it really did make me think about my own program. But when you're bringing in recruits, and whether it was JUCO or D2 or now D1, and you're looking for people you want to be around, what are those traits you're looking for? And now in this NIL world of very transactional relationships at times, how does that play into that theory of people I want to be around?
Yeah. Well, I think starting out, like, you get one crack at this, right? Like, you get one chance to be a D1 coach. I thought I had, one chance to be a D2 coach. Coming from JUCO, that was a crazy hire. At JUCO, getting a head coaching job, you think you get one, every job you get, I think you go into it like, this is my one crack at this. And I just, we're gonna do it the way that I want to do it, which is having the right people around. And if our failure in this NIL world is we don't bring in good enough players, I'm good going down that way. But we're not going to go down the other way. And I think that's important. And it's been easy in some ways early on for us to make decisions and our staff to make decisions because that's like the standard that we're not compromising. Like, are they guys we like being around? And it's been interesting because in recruiting so far, the kids that are the right kids have, I think, picked up on that. And they've gone, wait, I don't want to be in this transactional NIL world either. And is money, of course, we're offering real money to these kids, and in some cases, life-changing money. The number of times that after a call, I've had a player or an agent go, "Well, you know that because you didn't talk about the money as the reason they should come here, and everyone else is." So I think starting with that part, I think the transactional nature of this, it doesn't need to be. Like, we can pay kids and not have that be the reason that they're at our school in my mind. And then what was the second part of the question? Because that one jumped out.
Yeah, no, I just, those when you talk about those
Traits.
that you really want to be around, what are those traits that you're looking for?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's some of the obvious stuff, right? But I think the biggest thing is like feel. Cause you could say like, okay, grades are important, or maybe like winning was something probably more than anything. Have you won at your previous stops? Red flags are like if they complain about all the coaches they've had. Like, I'm good if they're like, I had this one coach that I didn't like. But if they're like, I didn't like my high school coach, I didn't like my AU coach, I didn't like my first college coach, that's a red flag. To be honest, I used to be more, we used to think when I first became a head coach that there was like a formula to this. Like, oh, we're going to recruit coaches' kids, or we're going to recruit good students. I've thrown it all out the window. It's just like, do we like them? I know it sounds like it's just gut. Like, we hop on these and like we talk for however long, and at the end of the conversation, am I like, that was enjoyable. I would enjoy talking more with this kid. Because the reason we had this initial is because they're good. So if they're good enough, we hop on it, and I'm like, that was fun. I enjoyed that. That's usually a plus. Same with a recruiting visit. If they come on the recruiting visit, we leave and are like, yeah, I can't wait to have that kid on campus so we get to know each other better. Or like, that's the positive we're really looking for. And if it's like, oh my gosh, I just couldn't do it, those are the ones you're like, yeah, maybe won't fit us. And but you can have a formula because you can have two kids that have the exact same background, same grades, same success, and they're totally opposite. The other thing I'd say in the modern era of recruiting, these kids are pretty savvy. So sometimes even in like an initial phone call, maybe the kid that's the most polite, and this has been 100% true for us. The kid that answers and is like, "Thank you, coach. I'm so appreciative of the opportunity. This has been a great conversation." Sometimes those kids suck and they're just trained on how to do it. And sometimes the kid that, kind of mumbles and can't articulate anything, you meet that kid and you're like, he's the best. And that's where it gets a little harder is sometimes those quick, that's why the transfer recruiting to me is scary because a lot of times our worst kids in the process end up being the best kids once you get to peel back the onion and actually get to know them as humans.
So I'm gonna kind of reverse engineer this question. Because you've talked about your stops and you talked about, hey, before you went to Northern, you're like, I was comfortable. We had it going, right? We just kind of found your groove. And in like John said, like coaches, they're a little transactional too, right? They're all over the place and going everywhere. Or you see, the pressure is even more even in high school now, right? So when you were going through all these processes, what things do you think young coaches that haven't been a head coach or a coach that's maybe looking for a different program should be looking for in a program in maybe administration? And is it kind of a gut feel? Is it certain things that you've noticed that make organizations and programs better? You know what I mean? Because there's so much movement now and so much, I guess, pressure, right? Like even high school coaches to win and be successful, that I think you got to be real choosy as to where you're going and make sure it's the right fit for you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think assistants too, like, in the college level, like, who you're working for and, assistants move more. Head coaches largely move because we're winning and we can get better jobs, or we're losing, we get worse jobs, but assistants have more opportunities and are involved in that more. Like you said, high school coaches are starting to change over. The days of being at a place for 40 years are kinda gone, right or wrong. It's just it seems like all of this is more fluid than it was. The thing I've found is the guys that are really at places and complaining about what they don't have usually go to another place and find out what they don't have. And the people that are like, there's some challenges here, but we're going to work around those challenges and make it work. They go to the next place and there's challenges and they make it work. What I was looking for, and again, this is me after Northern Michigan. I'd gone to two places that were bad jobs and we can't win. I wanted another place that people call bad jobs and can't win, that I thought you can win at and were sneaky good jobs. Because I think, I probably got the Northern Illinois job based on turning around programs. But part of it was we turned around Brian Stratton Junior College, which was in Milwaukee, which is a great junior college city, and they haven't lost since. So it wasn't like we turned it around because I was some genius and then, I went away and it went away. I think the same is going to happen in Northern Michigan. We turned it around. I think it's going to stay rolling. And so it's a different answer to your question, but like I think the key is where you are, make it as best as you can. And then if for me it was I want a new challenge. I want to see if what we do at D2 works at D1. It really had nothing to do with my ego. It would have earlier on, but by the time I was done there, I had the ego stuff was I was getting it because we were winning. Like that part was satisfied in some ways. This was more, and I'd hate to admit that it matters, but it does. We all have egos, and like it was good that way. But the D1 thing, I just wanted to see if what we did worked. And I think when coaches are looking at jobs, I think it's does what you do have a chance to work at that place? Because there's a lot of places that what I do won't work at. Like, but I think NIU is a place that is a perfect fit for kind of what my skills are and what our recruiting vision is and the recruits we're going to bring in and the coaches we're going to bring in. And I think that's the other mistake that you really see a lot in coaching is players, same thing. Just because you're successful at place A, those skills might not translate to place B. And I think that might be even more true with high school because you're not picking the players. Well, you're not supposed to be picking the players. So, like, there is some aspect of you have this group that works at your school, and now you're going to this school, and you can't coach the same way. And I think that's a interesting dynamic because I think fit is so much more important for both players and coaches and how it aligns with the university than maybe I ever realized when I first got into this.
Right. So we're call this halftime adjustments, and we're going to get a little bit more specific on this with the next couple of questions. Your transition to Northern Illinois, but just in general, I think it'd be interesting for our listeners to kind of know the kind of the process of this, right? You obviously do the interview, you obviously have recruiting, but there's so much stuff that goes into it, right? Kind of just give us in general, like the whirlwind it is to kind of, okay, I had my press conference, I got hired, now we got to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it back. I mean, it's the most remarkable. I didn't believe it so I was at Green Bay, and then I was at Shadner, but Bemidji when Wardle got Bradley, and he described that process to me, and I didn't believe it. And now that I've done it, I'm like, oh wait, that was real, and this is how it works, I guess. So even just the start of this was you're coaching. You have an agent who talks to schools more. Like I'm not talking to any schools during our season but your agent is, and you're connecting with him every now and then, and he's just kind of giving you these are the D1 schools that are interested. Where's your interest level? And then the week of the NCAA tournament, you do a Zoom on Tuesday. So on Monday night, I'm actually back in Marquette right now. I'm standing right where I'm sitting right now. I get a call from a number I don't know. It's a search firm saying, "Would you be interested?" Yeah, I'd be interested. Okay, can you Zoom tomorrow? Sure, I can Zoom tomorrow. So you Zoom for an hour, no big deal. We fly out to the NCAA tournament. We're in practice. I get a call from the same search firm. It's Thursday now. So you go from the Tuesday Zoom to Thursday. Hey, would you be interested in visiting campus? And you're like, well, no, because we play tomorrow. But yes, like I would be, but we can't do it. And he's like, okay, it really needs to be tomorrow. And you're like, well, I can't do it. So we did another Zoom. So we do 4 hours of Zoom. I find out on my phone that I got the job from a burner account. So I didn't know if it was real. So then
That's crazy.
I'm in practice coaching my team, and my watch is going like psycho. It's like ding, 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 ding. You're like, okay, that's crazy. So I tell our team, I'm like, hey, just so you guys know, I interviewed for this job, but I didn't get it. So whatever's on the internet isn't real. And call my agent, and he's heard nothing. By that night, I ended up getting an initial kind of offer of, this is what it's looking. So by the end of the weekend, I end up taking the job. We're playing in the NCAA tournament. I'd never been to campus. Like I was comfortable, but I'd never been to campus. So we lose. We win our first game. We're down 7 with 30 seconds to go. By this point, I pretty much know I'm done. And we come back and win. Like just these crazy emotional swings. Then the season ends. You're just gutted, like devastated, like you are at the end of every season. But we were really good this year. I legitimately thought we were going to win our region and have a chance of a national title. And then I'm driving to DeKalb, see it for the first time, then drive back here, pack some stuff up, say goodbyes, drive back down, do the press conference. Now you're trying to hire a staff. Everybody on the roster from last year's in the portal. So you're building a team from scratch. You're building a staff from scratch. You're dealing with the emotional fallout of losing. You have all these people back in Marquette that mean the world to you that also found out you were leaving, but you hadn't actually gotten to see. So you're trying to see them. And it's just this like the human being element of it, the emotional swings. I can't even like begin to describe them because you have all these like you're so happy and excited and it's everything you dreamed of. And then you're just so sad and you're going to miss so many people. And I think sometimes in these things, you see the coach in the press conference go, like, this is a dream come true. I'm so happy for, yeah, you are. But if to me, you're probably not a real good coach if you're only happy because to me, the sadness is part of it and equally strong in some ways. Now, it's cool because the people here have been so supportive from my bosses to, they're excited. They're happy for me. And, we made sure we left this in a good spot where this will keep rolling. And that helped me in the transition to NIU.
So let's really dig in now. So when you sit down and you become a head coach and you've done this now a few places and you really look at your first, let's say 90 days, 120 days. In that short window, kind of what are your goals? What are things you're trying to accomplish? And how do you want to start that foundation going forward?
Yeah. So to me, it starts staff and players. Like we have a bunch of locker room things we want to do, office things we want to do. And I'm a big list guy, so I kind of have the 3 columns of like immediate, short term, medium term, long term, and the long term still is 90 days. It's like long term's like we got to redo the signage in the locker room. We got to do some stuff in the offices. And once we got assistants, I wanted them to just make a list of like I need a new TV. But that's the long term stuff. The midterm stuff is like we got to figure out how the 15th scholarship works or whatever, or we got to figure out the academic money. But the most pressing thing is what coaches can I hire right away to start helping me with this? And that's the most important thing right away. And then who are the players that we can get right away to form kind of the core? And we were lucky enough to be able to bring some guys with us, and we had some kids that we'd known for a long time who were in the portal. I am an anti-portal guy. I want our team to be all high school. I'm so thankful the portal exists right now because for this unique situation, it is awesome. But how do we deal with that? And I think it's, as your phone, I had like 800 texts. The texts that needed to be responded to were recruits that we thought were the right fit that we thought we could get done relatively quickly, which we got done, and the coaches that we knew we were hiring. There's a billion guys that want jobs, a lot of guys I liked that wanted jobs, but who are the ones that like we knew we were hiring right away so that they could start getting, done with those other short term. And now we're in that midterm phase of like, now we're able to watch film. Like I couldn't even watch film on the recruits. So they had to be people I'd already evaled a lot. Now we're in the, okay, now we're diving in. We're watching a lot of, tape on these guys. We're meeting as staffs on these guys. We're able to kind of branch out and do the real recruiting. But that initial like week or 2 weeks is so important to not screw it up. And every part of you wants to go celebrate with your buddies and, have phone calls that, with people you care about. And unfortunately, you got to just kind of ignore all that and really focus on the immediate staff and the immediate players. So you have that core. And I think that's one thing we've done well. Now we're in that kind of middle phase, I'd say, where it's real recruiting, building relationships, all of those types of things. And we're really starting to transition into that. All right. And then, the high school recruiting, what I have done a terrible job of is I need to talk to more high school and AAU guys. That just as important as that is, it's not right now the main thing. The main thing is our roster for next year. So as much as long term we're going to be based in high school recruiting and we need to develop those relationships, it's not something that's the most pressing thing because we have to fill a roster. So I think the long answer to that question is you put these things in kind of these buckets, and I am really bad at doing different things. So once I start we're going to reach out to high school guys and form those relationships, I'm going to be all in on that. But right now we're all in on our roster for next year because that's the most important thing. Because if we win 2 games next year, it won't matter how many cool phone calls I made. If we win 20 games, it'll be pretty easy to build those relationships.
All right, so then this ties in very well, right? First of all, I'm going to give you a plug, Coach Majkrzak. If our listeners haven't listened to your other podcasts, they need to go listen. I listened to your last one the other day. A lot of great ideas on it, a lot of interesting things. It was really good about your system and what you guys do. But so I'll give you your little plug there, and I don't mind hyping the slap in the glass guys because they're awesome too. But you talked about it, like you're bringing in recruits. You brought some guys with you, right? But you also have to know how they fit into what you want to do, right? So when you're thinking about that and looking at, how are you blending? Hey, we did this at Northern Michigan. Do I want to still do this? Do I have to? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a lot of factors that go
for
into it
sure.
because every place is different, right?
For
And
sure.
like you said, you're creating a whole new roster. So, it might not be perfect to start. You might have to make it work with certain things in order to be successful, right? So how are you going about that system stuff when you're talking to recruiters, when you're talking to assistant coaches, things like that of, hey, this is how we got to go about it so we can get the right fit for players, but also start setting that up when you got your workouts and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I haven't talked any basketball yet, and we've made it however long. So it's I like reminding myself sometimes that I am a basketball coach, because right now I feel like a professional recruiter and
Yeah. Right.
program builder. But, no, it's a great question. So I think, first of all, like, we've adapted a lot, and we'll continue to adapt a lot. I think it's one of our strengths is being able to adapt to whatever the best players are. I think being in the UP of Michigan, we didn't have a choice. Like, if we could get a kid that was good to come up here, we had to take them, regardless of what they played like. Maybe some of our role guys we could be picky on, but whatever kind of great player we could get, we were taking. And I think that really helped me because I feel like now I can coach a lot of different styles and systems within reason. What we do know is we're not going to turn the ball over. We just won't. I can guarantee we will not turn the ball over a lot. And we are gonna try like heck to rebound. Like I can't the rebounding's a little harder because at some point you need to have physical prowess to grab rebounds, but we're gonna fight on the glass in particular. So when we're recruiting, everything kind of comes down to let's make sure we don't turn it over, let's make sure we rebound. And we know that is kind of the baseline. And then let's recruit offensive guys that are talented enough to put the ball in the hoop in some way, shape, or form. If they can shoot, bonus points. If they can't shoot, but they can score, we'll find a way to make it work. And we feel like if we have good offensive players, our offense last year was second in the history of college basketball for efficiency. And so we feel like if we have talented offensive guys, we have a team big enough and physical enough to rebound, and then I'll make sure they don't turn it over. That's going to get us to average. It might not win the league, but we won't be bad. And I think that's kind of sometimes when coaches get jobs, they're like, I want to win the national title. Yeah, maybe, but NIU's been really bad for a long time. I'd like to not be bad. That seems like a good starting point. And again, that's kind of how we became a championship level team was by starting out by saying, let's avoid bad, and then we'll get better and better and better. So that's kind of been the key to our recruiting is rebounding, not turning it over, and skilled offensive guys that we can plug into our system, which can be, varied, and we can change it, and then in these high school recruits, we will offer the perfect guys for our system because we can be pickier with them, and there's more of them. And luckily the other Division I schools are too worried about the portal and transfers. So we're going to have a leg up because we're going to be worried about the high school guys. And then we'll really be able to build this perfect team. For this year, it's I love that player. We'll plug them in and we'll adjust our offensive system and our defensive system to make it work with a kid that is good enough and will help us not turn it over and rebound, and in some ways can put the ball in the hoop.
So I want to follow that and talk about the turnover piece because I think that's interesting. So how are you going about coaching that? Right? I mean, obviously decision making goes into it. Listen to you talk and other pods, it's some film stuff, right? But you seem pretty adamant that you're not going to turn the ball over. That's your non-negotiable, right? One of them at least, right? So what are the things you're doing to help your players, realize the situations we're in, get better at that decision making, get better at that skill? Because like you said, you're bringing in kids from different places, right? They've been coached by different people, different things. So how are you getting that point across when you get into your workouts and your team stuff and all that?
Yeah, we do a lot of, like a lot of people do, but we do a lot of the playing off too, like a lot of the things that the coaches that don't turn it over do. I think offensively, we're very, I would say, good at, we don't put the high risk turnover guys in positions to make turnovers. We try to keep the ball in the hands of the guys that are going to be relatively safe. I think sometimes when I watch film on other teams, like they're putting guys that just aren't great decision makers in these decision making areas. And I think that's where turnovers are going to happen then. We try to not minimize that as much as we can through kind of how we structure our offense. Obviously, recruiting point guard play is important and recruiting point guards that value the ball. But then the biggest thing is like if you throw up a bad shot with 22 on the clock, I probably am not going to say anything the first month, in summer workouts. I'm probably going to just, unless it gets obscene, but one of those, we'll let it go. If a guy comes down and, whiffs on a screen, I'm probably going to let it go. If a guy miscuts, probably going to let it go. If you have a careless travel in the paint because your footwork's bad, you're going to get talked to about it. And if you make a lazy pass or a lazy catch, we'll stop practice. Like there aren't a lot of things that it's just like, no, turnovers are one of the things that, and it's funny because at Northern Michigan, we'd have some new assistants and they'd come in and early in the year, they'd be like, we're turning it over all the time. Why aren't you saying anything about it? I said, well, I'm letting him go for now. Just wait. I promise you we won't turn it over. You have worries, but that is not one of your worries. We will not do it. And, I'd wait, I'd let him go, and I'll do the same thing here. We'll let it go a little bit, and then at some point we'll have that day, and every turnover will run. I mean, all the old school stuff, that we save that for turnovers and rebounding. If a guy's not making a rebounding effort every single time, eventually they won't play and we'll run. Those are the only two things, unfortunately, run and bench. Now, we'll show a ton of film, we'll chart a lot, we'll get there in the new school approach. But at some point, the new school approach stops working and we'll go back to the old school of you will not play. I will bench you and we're going to run when you do it. Because I think there's a reason that, when things have worked for hundreds of years, sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
So I do want to follow up too, and I think this is an interesting kind of add on. And as Todd said, we've both listened to you before. I kind of want to go into that decision making piece of it because I think that's something, at least with my team, that I'm really trying to focus on and develop. What are ways that you're developing that decision making so that they are making the correct decision so that they aren't turning it over at an extremely, I mean, you just said you were the second highest efficiency offense in the nation. What are things you're doing to develop that decision making piece so that they are making the right decision?
Yeah, I think, and it's interesting because one question that we've gotten maybe more with the D1 portal kids than we got with high school kids is player development stuff from agents, from parents, from kids. So I've been answering this question a lot lately, and if it hurts us with recruits, I'm okay with it because I think that the way most college programs probably more so than even high school, teach player development is so antiquated and like just kind of silly. So we're gonna go in the gym and we're gonna work on like moves. And everyone says the trainers go to watch college coaches, watch college practices. They're insane. You're gonna work on like wing catches where guys like stampeding it and then spinning backwards. How many players on your team are you gonna let do that in a 5-on-5 game? One, two? Like it's insane. And to me, we just don't do that, and we're not gonna do that. We put them in real situations. If you watch an NBA game, even more so if you watch a Euro game, each player is only involved in so many actions. Like, you're gonna get a ball screen if you're a guard that gets ball screens. You're gonna get a ball screen with a guy in the corner, or you're gonna get a cleared out ball screen, by and large. Unless you're a wizard point guard, those are the only 2 ball screens you're gonna get. And if you're a good offensive coach at our level, but more so if you're in the NBA or in Europe, there's only 2 spots that those guys will be on the weak side. Why not just work on that exact situation 5-on-5 over and over and over again, rather than working all these dumb, there's a chair and we're gonna stop behind, like, what are we doing? And, that's why we don't turn it over, is because we just work on the real situations you're in over and over and over again in a 5-on-5 setting. And every time, like, and again, my assistant, hopefully they're listening to this, our new staff, they're gonna be like, "Hey, coach, we really gotta work on our, like, our defense on dribble drive." Like, "Okay, well, let's play 5-on-5 dribble drive, and, let's teach it well on offense, and let's guard it." 'Cause if we do the stupid 2-on-2, like, shuffle, okay, we're gonna switch it, yeah, they're gonna be awesome at that 2-on-2 drill. But that's not the problem. The problem is live action, communicating, talking, decision making. So offensively, our decision making, we just try to, now what we will do is we're gonna put our power forwards in the ball handler spot and let them make those decisions on the ball screen, live 5-on-5. We're going to put our center in that spot and let him come off the ball screen live 5-on-5. And sometimes they shock you with what they're capable of. So you do have to give them opportunities to do all the different things, come off downs. Like, we started setting a ton of down screens for our centers because they can shoot a little bit, but also because centers couldn't guard them and then they drive them. Like, you have to give them opportunities to do the things. But at the end of the day, within every system, let's say you have a pin down, you have a stagger, you have a screen to screener, maybe a fade screen. There's only 4 or 5 off ball things you're going to get to anyways. And then with the ball screen, you're going to have a cleared up ball screen, a shake ball screen, and maybe a Spain ball screen for your best guys, or whatever, a double ball screen for your best guys. Why not just practice those actual things and find out who's capable of making decisions in that? We're going to let them do that all summer. And then by November, it'll basically be, well, that guy's good in that, but he sucks in that. We will never let him do that, and we're going to let him do a ton of that. And I think that's kind of how we teach the decision making, is almost with the end in mind. Let them do it and then develop it out of those kind of constraints.
So I have one more follow before we move on to the next one, and it's kind of like in this time of year, and in this, and maybe not right now because there's a lot of transition piece, but as you're in an off season, and maybe you're a high school head coach out there listening, how do you kind of decide before you decide, this is the personnel that goes into these specific actions? How do you kind of go about deciding what those actions are going to be? Do those actions kind of change off season to off season depending on personnel? Are there kind of some core actions that your team will always run? Kind of how do you decide those actions prior to deciding those decision making and personnel decisions?
That's one. There's a lot of reasons that I think high school coaches and Division III coaches have the hardest jobs, because you guys don't get as much of that lead up time. Now it's change. I think it's changing in some ways for the better, where the high school coaches now having the, like, if I was a high school coach in the summer stuff, I would just be trying things. Like, I would have guesses. I'm not just like picking random things, but I would be trying more. And when I watch some of the high school stuff, it's almost like in the summer, coaches are afraid to try things and they almost give more freedom. I would probably just really spam different actions if it was me, to just see what our guys look like in those actions, knowing that then I have some film and some data on, like, well, that kid's really good in a double drag, or that kid's really good running off ball screens. Where I think sometimes you'll see the summer and everyone will just kind of play pickup summer basketball, and then that same coach will really control the in season. I might go the opposite if it was me. And that's kind of what our process is with it is we'll try all these different things early and see. And if they like them, we're going to do them. So if we have a kid go like, I really like when we do that, or I really like when we do that, then we're like, okay, well, we'll do more of that with you in particular then. I would say we're married to almost nothing as far as like sets go or even actions go. Like I don't care if we set a ton of ball screens or we play mostly off ball, but we're going to try a lot of it that starts out as an educated guess of, okay, we have these shooters. I bet they'd be really good in that. And with the portal recruiting, obviously our Northern Michigan guys, I know what they're good at already, and I know what I want to try with them and get them better at. So I have that plan already. With the portal guys, if they're awesome at an action at their previous school, we're going to run that for them right away. Like, let's ease them in with some things they're comfortable with. And then I'm going, okay, this kid's similar to this kid I coach. So we're going to run these 4 or 5 things that we ran for that kid with him. And honestly, what usually happens, they just can't figure out or they don't like a couple of them, but a couple of them, they're like, I love that. And then the other thing I do is I just watch all these random Twitter. I mean, I don't like everyone thinks I watch Euro games like other coaches. I just watch the Twitter clips of the Euro games and then I'm like, oh yeah, we could do something like that. We almost never copy a play, but something within the play, we're like, yeah, I like that. Let's add that to our start of this. And then we try it. And one thing we do probably more than anyone is like Mondays in season, we're running like 20, 30 actions that we don't care about if they're in or not. And 25 of them never make it out of Monday, or 20 of them don't make it out of Monday. 10 of them might get to Tuesday, and only 5 of them are going to get to the game. Of the 5 we run in the game, half of them will be run for 1 or 2 games, and then they're out. But every now and then you get one that will run for 4 years because a freshman runs that play so well that is a core thing. And then we'll have a bunch of wrinkles off of that action. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but like it's funny because offensively, I can explain defense so much better, even though I think I'm a better offensive coach. Offense is like so much art. Like even whether no matter if you run motion, you run sets, whatever you run, like the best coaches sometimes describe it the worst because it's like you're so like I remember Ben McCollum, I called him and he tried to explain what they do, and at some point he's like, "Coach, like I suck at explaining this. You just do it, and then you just correct and teach." And then you just do it, and then you correct and teach, and then you do it. And I was younger at the time, and I'm like, he's definitely holding something back. Now I'm like, nope, I don't have a whole lot because the beauty of it is in the freedom and how you stack things and change things and add things and where you give freedom and where you give structure. And I think that's true of all offenses within reason.
That's awesome because I kind of was thinking the same thing. Like we do a lot of chin stuff and Princeton stuff. So okay, that's a nice little wrinkle to it. Can we enter it this way into that stuff as opposed to throwing the whole thing in? And I tell our girls at Benedictine all the time, like, they're like, well, what do I do next? And well, I'm like, it just depends, right? Like you gotta kind of figure it out. Like it's not we're not robots out here, right? It's not every defense is gonna do it different and all that. So I like that approach. So we kind of answered our next question here. So we're gonna go ahead to before we get to our last 2 segments here. At the end of this year, at the end of year 1, how are you going to assess success? What is gonna success look like for you?
I do think wins and losses are a huge part of it. And I'm not saying that to be like cheeky, but like it is like at the end of the day, the beauty of sports is you win and you lose. And it's really important to win. Now, I don't know I don't have a number yet. When our roster gets set, I do it every year. I predict our wins and I'll do it again. I never show anyone. I don't show our staff. I just have it in my head. And I've been pretty good so far with it. But I think winning and losing does matter. Like, I don't wanna run from that. Like, if we go win 4 games, it's a disaster regardless. And if we win 20 games, sure, we're not gonna have major issues with character and all that. So, if we win 20 games, it's gonna be a resounding success. But I think the other piece of that is what goes into that. So, like, the turnover stuff we talked about, the rebounding stuff, and then retention. I think that's the other beauty of college basketball now is are you retaining the right guys? And frankly, are you losing the right guys? Some people are retain everyone. Like that's an Izzo thing. He wants to retain everyone. I don't want to. I want to lose the guys I want losing guys up for us And if guys aren't playing and I don't think they're going to be happy, I want them to transfer out and go to a level that they're going to be happy at. And in some ways, one of the things I'm proud of that we did at Northern Michigan is I have as good relationships with half the guys, not everyone, but half the guys that left our program as I do the guys that stayed. If I thought they left for the right reasons, whether Max Weisberg went to Northern Iowa, started and played in the NCAA tournament, awesome. We had kids that transferred. We had a kid that transferred to another D2 and became an All-American. Well, he was blocked by our All-American. He wasn't going to play. Right move by him. And I think that's probably where I kind of blend some of the old and new school stuff. Like, I was still old school in that retention matters. We want to keep the team. We want to recruit high school. But I'm new school enough in that if it's not the right fit, let's move on. And then we'll have more guys come in who are the right fit. And so I think it's the retention piece and wins and losses are really the two measures that I kind of have for our program.
So as we get into our last two segments, the first one we call 30-second timeout. We promise there's no referee in your timeout. It can be longer than 30 seconds, but it's your chance to talk about anything that you want to discuss. It can be about yourself or your family, your program. You can turn the tables and ask Todd and I a question, kind of your dime, your dance floor.
I'm gonna start with a quick NIU plug. NIU basketball. I'm from 2.5 hours away. I'm very familiar with Midwest. It's not even that people don't talk negatively about it. They just don't talk about it. It's like an ignored thing. So let's change that. I think that's my plug and it's part of my job. On top of we're gonna flip it. We're going to win some games. I think we're going to recruit local, which will excite people, blah, blah, blah. I think we're going to do our part, but I also think we got to promote it. It's a place that it hasn't been a good product. I can't say it's a good product because it's been a bad product, but we're going to make it into a good product. And I don't just mean winning and losing, but it'll be fun to watch, all of those things. My question is, as people that are more local than I've been, because I've been in the UP, I think everyone knows that it's ignored, but would you agree with that assessment? And then what are things besides winning and recruiting local that you think can be done? And this has been my question to everybody to help change that.
So usually Todd starts. I think I'll start this one.
Yeah, you seem like you got an answer. I got to think about this for a second.
Yeah, I think NIU can be a sleeping giant. I truly do. I think it's a super close proximity to Chicago. I think there's unlimited amount of talent in Chicago. So I think, not to steal a little bit of what you said, but to start at least, I think it's a little bit of getting into those CPS schools, creating relationships with those coaches. Because I'll be honest, I don't even remember the last great Chicago kid that actually went to NIU. I think the second piece of it is somewhat playing an exciting style. I think it's hard in this market. Let's be honest, it's also harder in the Chicago market because there's so many things, right? I think there's not only the professional sports, but there's DePaul men's basketball, there's Illinois men's basketball. And there's so many more things. So I think it's playing maybe a unique style that people are drawn to, whatever that may be. And then I think it's just bringing in the DeKalb community. I've been to women's basketball games. We've had on NIU women's assistants who are now in other places. And I think it's just digging into the DeKalb community a little bit and getting them out to games, because the few games I've went to, it's very high school D3-ish flavor in that it's just the parents, it's just their friends, it's just the men's players supporting the women's players and the women's players supporting the men's players kind of thing. So I think it's bringing in the DeKalb community and the student body. And I'm going to be very honest with you, Coach, as when somebody that grew up around here, everybody thinks of NIU as a football school, and football has had a lot of success and some NFL players and made bowl games. So I think it's changing that narrative as well.
Yeah, I think style of play is huge too, right? Like if it's fun to watch, right? That brings people in. And I know in this area, like you have success, there's a lot of just local. I mean, you're obviously in DeKalb, but and we're not in Chicago. I'm in the suburbs, so I don't like. But there's a lot of pride, right? There's a lot of when teams in our area are good. There's a lot of pride in it. Like people will get behind it and support and talk about it. But I think to me, like despite the wins and losses, like if you have a exciting product, you're competitive, you're fun to watch. That's a huge part to start getting that interest, right? And then, obviously having local kids that people are interested, like, oh, hey, wait, I watched him play, or my son's team played against him and he was killing us, right? Like hey, I remember so and so. Let's check it out. Let's look at it, you know. But really, I think like people will support and people will get bored, not just in the DeKalb area, but in Illinois, in the the DeKalb, Chicago area, you know, and you get behind you, and there's a lot of pride in Illinois and kind of our teams and what we do.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, I did look just after I made the point I made to make sure I was saying it right. There is not one a player that was on NIU last year that was from the Chicago area that wasn't previously at another school and transferred in.
Yeah,
AKA, there wasn't one freshman that started in Illinois and said, I'm going to go to NIU and went to NIU. So I think that is a problem. And I think that would be a problem for any university. And I think it's an especially a problem for Illinois, which is, I'm going to be transparent. I think one of the more basketball rich states in the country. So I think Todd is completely right that if you brought in some Illinois kids, people would say, "Hey, I remember watching that kid. Let's drive an hour to go to DeKalb and watch him."
I agree.
All
I
right.
agree with
All
all
right.
those.
So let's go. Last segment, quick hitters, just kind of rapid fire questions. Kind of fun. Answer it any way you want. All right. Best place to eat in Marquette, Michigan. John and I have this tour we're going to go on eventually when we have time. We ask this to almost everybody, and we're just going to go different places and eat food and, have a good old time when we're old and retired.
The best place to eat is Stucco's Bar and Grill to get a quesadilla or a burger and a shoop of beer after you win a game.
That sounds like a great time to
That
me.
sounds like our kind of place.
Yeah,
Right
yeah.
up my
There
alley.
might be fancier, but that's every post game, and we won most of them. That's where we went. It's where I'm going today.
Um, all right, so I kind of, as I was doing my research, I'm like, man, he's coached in Wisconsin, Northern Michigan, and now Northern Illinois. So there had to be some tough road trips in the winter. What's a tough road trip story?
I mean, I have two. I was also in Bemidji, Minnesota. So, and
Ah,
when I was in Shadron, Nebraska, we went through the mountains and got stuck on the other side of the mountain passes. So I could probably make a 100 list, not even a top 10 list. But the most recent one is like, which was this year, is driving in like there's not like places to stop on the Michigan roads because where we are, it's 7 hours from Detroit, and so you're driving south and there's like not stopping points. So you end up in like this ice and snow stuff and you have nowhere to go but to just keep going. And we had one where the cars were just flying off the road because it was straight like sheet ice. And you're just going like we drove a car because men and women travel together in the bus. So we're in the car and our assistant who came with me he's basically went to high school at IMG in Florida. So he'd never driven in snow. So college at High Point. So I'm like, all right, I'll drive. And it was luckily after a win, or I might have just drove off the road. But I'm like going 15 miles an hour, like, please get me home. And that was this year. So there's been a lot of them, but thankfully nothing crazy's happened. But yeah, DeKalb is like Florida for me. That's what everyone's like, oh, the wet. I'm like, guys, you have no idea. This is great.
All right, something you're looking forward to living in the Northern Illinois, Chicago area.
Recruiting and being able to drive an hour to O'Hare and fly out, or go see a lot of great basketball in Chicago and Milwaukee, and not having to make we've done like the 14-hour car rides here, and
Right,
we did a
right.
2.5 week long recruiting bender of driving all around the country and not having to do that and still being able to see great players, kind of like what we talked about earlier. That's the part I'm looking forward to most.
so I know the answer to this, but let's just steam it up.
You might have to change. I don't know if he's going to
Oh,
go
he's
one way, you might have to change it because
gonna say where he grew
moved
up.
a little farther south here, Coach.
Bears or Packers?
Yeah, I mean, it's Packers. I'm
Yeah,
from an
I know.
hour away. I went to school at Green Bay. I'm not gonna be one of those. I'm not gonna be one of those people that flips. Like in the UP, there's a lot of like Packers Lions debates, and I'm like, you guys hate the people who are from Michigan and are Packers fans. Do you really want me to be from Wisconsin and become something else? Like, I'm not doing that. So I'm a Packers fan. Although the Bears for a while it was all fun and games, and I'm a little bit worried. Ben Johnson has a special place in my heart as a offensive person who likes creativity and flair. So
Yep.
I can't hate the Bears what they're doing quite as much. I like the old coaches. And I'm not so sure
Right,
about.
because they were bad.
Yeah, those guys were great as a Packers fan. He's a little scary.
Your favorite coach growing up?
I think I was like a Duke homer. It's like Coach K. It's a boring answer, but like that was my like in college. And then I had my dad coached me from like 4th grade through 7th grade. So either my dad, because that was kind of what got me into basketball, was like all our conversations about mostly how I could find a way to score. I was pretty good at pestering him, or like on the big level, it was like I was a Duke guy. I cried when they lost in the NCAA tournament.
All right, last one. Favorite away gym that you've coached in?
Michigan Tech, probably, who's our rival up here. Like, it's an old gym. The band is like, they come out to like a march and they're just like creatures and yell heinous things at you. And the football guys, they have a board and they write like the most crazy things in the world on the whiteboard. And I kind of won them over because I would usually interact with them. So this year they told me I was on Ozempic, and I thought that was kind of nice. I walked over, I was like, thanks guys. Like, I don't think I've lost weight, but I really appreciate that you think I'm on Ozempic. We're doing good. And the tech football team came to our home game this year, and I asked where their whiteboard was, and they said, well, we didn't think we could sneak it in. And I'm like, I got an extra one if you guys want to have it for the game. And I think they were too confused to take me up on it, but I would have given it to them but I like that, right? I like the hatred rivalry stuff. That's way more fun to me. Like, people would always complain about different things at Tech because their band was maybe in football almost crossed the line at times. College basketball, like, if isn't that what you
Right.
want? Do you want everyone to be like, hey, you guys are really good. This is fun. Then we wouldn't be a very good rival.
It's like when everybody gets quiet during free throws now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I tell people all the time. I'm like, what happened? The student section's a lost art. Like, I don't know. When I was growing up, it was crazy. There was all kinds of things going on. People find out stuff about your family and your sister and all this
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of stuff. It was
Yeah,
like,
that was the Tech football team. They had, like, the whiteboard, and it was, like, talking about our players' sisters and stuff. I
yeah,
always thought
that's
it helped us. We had a winning
no,
record there, and they were really good. Like, I was like, "This is fun," and then after the
yes,
games,
yes,
you're like, "This is cool." Like, I don't I mean, there is a line, right? We all know what the lines
right,
Oh
are,
yeah, of
right.
course, of course.
but for the most part, people don't cross I mean, it's like yelling, "You suck," and that's fun. Like, why do
Yeah,
we
right.
basketball's fun. It might be my number one, like, thing, like, in the D1 stuff, it's even gonna be stuffier. Like, we're just not gonna let it be stuffy at our place. Like, it's just not gonna happen. It's a fun thing. It's
Yep.
enjoyable. It's a sport. Let's have fun with it. I wanna have coaches in our league. I want fake rivals, like, where we actually like each other, but we pretend to hate like, that's the
Yeah.
stuff I mean, I don't actually hate people, but let's pretend we do for the sake of enjoyment, because this is still a sport at the end of the day.
Little entertainment factor into it, right?
For sure, or I'll find a rival. I'll hate someone at some point.
There you go.
Well, coach, we're very excited as Illinois residents that you're the coach of NIU. I know our listeners, once they listen to this episode, will take a lot from you, and it's just going to bring more excitement to Northern Illinois. So, first of all, congratulations, and second of all, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and if anyone's around, summer workouts, would love to just have people stop by and get to know more people, and, they're very open, so just email someone on our staff, and just looking forward to meeting as many people as possible and hopefully doing a great job of recruiting the area.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast in partnership with the IBCA. Please be sure to rate us on whatever platform you are listening and give us a 5-star rating. For more show content and updates, please follow us on Twitter at After the Timeout. As always, thank you for listening. Tune in next time for more content on the court, off the court, and anything in between.